DJ explaining presenting a 6.7 IMDb rating full Hollywood movie, Hardcore Henry 2015. The film begins with a memory from Henry's experience growing up. Three domineering jerks stand before him, and one of them is holding a toy of Henry's. The domineering jerk flings the toy against the wall and crushes it. A man, Henry's dad Tim Roth, checks out at him and says, "You little pussy." The grown-up Henry awakens in an office. A lady named Estelle Haley Bennett brings him up from a water tank. Henry sees he's feeling the loss of his left lower arm and his left leg beneath the knee. Estelle replaces them with mechanical appendages. Henry can't talk since his voice box hasn't been introduced at this point, and he has no memory of how he got to where he is. Estelle claims that she is Henry's significant other. Estelle carries Henry into a room with two different researchers, Robbie Will Stewart and Timothy Ilya Nashula. They plan to introduce Henry's voice until a group of soldiers of fortune drove by Akant Danila Kozlovsky storm in. They blow the entryway open, pounding Robbie. Akan requests that Timothy make sense of Henry's landing in the office. Timothy says that Henry's appendages were shot off and his skull was broken seriously up to this point. Akan then, at that point, utilizes supernatural powers to suspend Timothy and cut him to death. He intends to make a multitude of fighters like Henry. Estelle plays a boisterous sound to hold the mercs off and allow her and Henry an opportunity to run. She drives him to a getaway unit for both of them. They are catapulted from the office, which is up overhead. The unit lands on a scaffold. After Henry hauls Estelle out of the case, one more group of mercs drove by Yuri Oleg Podubnik show up. Estelle advises Henry to draw in them. Henry punches Yuri and gets a couple of good hits, yet the mercs bring him down, and Yuri drives Henry over the scaffold. He arrives on a vehicle and afterward runs into a cargo holder. There, he tracks down a vehicle and turns it on, allowing it to carry out to stir things up around town. He battles the mercs until a van goes through and crashes through the bad guys. The driver is a man named Jimmy Shalto Copley. He kills two other mercs and advises Henry to follow him, knowing what his identity is. As they drive, Jimmy advises Henry to open the glove box, where he tracks down a charger for his body. They are come by two police, who end up being grimy criminals working for Akan. They shoot Jimmy in the head, driving Henry to go through the tram for well-being. The police track down him there, however Henry battles them and shoots one of them to death. Henry runs back out into the roads and onto a transport. There, he tracks down Jimmy, really a clone dressed like a vagrant. He tears a GPS beacon out of Henry's arm and afterward advises him to find a man named Slick Dimitri Andre Dementiv and take his sponsor cushion from his chest, and afterward to get together with Jimmy after the undertaking is finished. Jimmy then peers through the window and sees a man in a metal suit. He adheres his head out to ridicule him until the man employs a flamethrower. Destitute Jimmy gets scorched alive, and Henry should run once more. Henry finds the structure where Dimitri is found. He climbs the structure and enters through a window. He kills the thugs he goes over prior to making it into Dimitri's room. Dimitri is unmoving. On his screen, Estelle seems to let Henry know that Akan has started with his arrangement and is setting up his military. Dimitri then jumps up and assaults Henry. Henry pursues Dimitri through the structure and afterward through the city. Dimitri staggers, allowing Henry an opportunity to beat him. Dimitri then says he has a remark with respect to Jimmy, however his head is passed over before he can say anything more. Henry dodges the mercs. Henry shows up at the area Jimmy advised him to find him, which is a house of ill repute. Henry meets cokehead Jimmy laying with 5 ladies. Jimmy attempts to put the supporter cushion into Henry's chest, yet he's in a terrible condition to do as such. He leaves Henry with the ladies, who remark on Henry being charming and afterward begin playing with him. He begins seeing recollections of himself and Estelle getting close. A more gotten down to business Jimmy appears and introduces the promoter cushion. More detestable mercs appear. Henry shoots through them prior to arriving at a room where Akan is sitting. He kills a man by tossing a silver plate into his head. Akan breaks, and Henry kills more mercs. He and Jimmy run into two dominatrix professional killers, Katya Darya Charusha and Olga Svetlana Ostinova, who likewise have an unresolved issue with Akan. Jimmy then orders Henry to bounce on a bike and pursue one of Akan's vans. Henry rides the bike and shoots more mercs on the van, while likewise heaving a few projectiles their way. He gets to the principal van and cuts 2 additional thugs before he tracks down Estelle. They embrace. However, Akan pops up and punctures the van to make his entry. He utilizes his powers to take Henry out. Henry stirs in the forest encompassed by more mercs. They get immediately killed off by hippie Jimmy. Henry follows him and one more lady until they wind up dead by a blast. Henry faces more mercs, including a couple of riding a tank through the forest. He cuts his direction through them prior to killing some mercs in a chopper. Henry shows up at the apartment complex where Jimmy's research facility is found. First, he goes over a few filthy police endeavoring to assault a lady. Henry shoots two of the police prior to pressing the last one's groin like a grape and afterward forcing a shotgun barrel on him. Henry enters Jimmy's lab and sees a video of Jimmy working with Akan to make his cyborg armed force from the remaining parts of expired men. At the point when the analysis turned out badly, Akan injured Jimmy by breaking his spine. The first Jimmy comes in and flaunts his clones to Henry through a practice dance schedule. Punk Jimmy then, at that point, blames Henry for being a trickster since he is automatically communicating his location to Akan. Unique Jimmy chooses to trust Henry and ensure that Akan doesn't go anyplace close to the lab. Three of the clones, Punk, Camouflage, and Colonel, lead Henry outside to confront the attack of mercs making a beeline for the structure. Henry and Camouflage kill a portion of the mercs down underneath while Punk gets a few kills starting from the earliest stage getting exploded. Cover passes on Henry to join the Colonel as he drops himself down with an explosive. Henry and Colonel shoot and explode some mercs. Yuri and his mercs show up, yet Colonel kills them by exploding the roof and welcoming it down on them. Jimmy has been hit with a shard in his throat. Knowing he's perishing, he lets Henry know that he had seen him initially before he had awakened and seen a memory block in his mind and had it left in there. However, he realizes that a portion of his recollections are returning. Prior to passing on, he says it's great to have had Henry as a companion, and requests that he ensure he investigates Akan's eyes as he kills him. Henry comes to Akan's office for the last standoff. Akan has his cyborgs all set. He uncovers to Henry that every one of them awakened the same way Henry did, with Estelle professing to be their significant other and going about like she cherished them, including Henry. Akan releases the cyborgs upon Henry. He continues to kill them in every direction under the sun, shooting, cutting, slicing, explosives, takes passed over, cut off, eyes gouged out, and so on. Henry comes to the rooftop to confront Akan, yet he is brought somewhere around Akan's powers, and, surprisingly, harder when Estelle appears, obviously Akan's ally. Akan insults Henry as he's down and thumbs him aside, where he faces some glass and we get an unclear gander at Henry's face which is like that of his dad's. We see the youth flashback once more. Henry's dad says his own dad used to call him a pussy, and he believes he demonstrated him right by killing some unacceptable individuals, yet he promises to call out to Henry by his own and advises him to retaliate. In the present, Henry snatches two adrenaline needles and keeps killing the other cyborgs. He ties spike metal around his hand and figures out how to draw near enough to Akan to hurt him. He parts Akan's hand separated agonizingly. Akan utilizes his powers to lift Henry up, however Henry draws near once more and takes out his own eye-tail to fold it over Akan's head and cut off the top half off. Henry sheets the chopper and shows off Akan's head to Estelle. She irately takes shots at Henry until he holds his hand up, making the projectile kick back and strike her. Estelle staggers out of the chopper and holds tight. She begs Henry to pay attention to his heart. Obviously, his heart advised him to close the entryway on her fingers and let her dive to the ground beneath. I hope you enjoyed this movie summary explanation. Then please don't forget to subscribe my small channel and press the bell icon for more movie explanation. Thanks for watching.